These days, flying is one of the safest and fastest ways to travel. And when you look at the flight traffic map of the world, there are so many planes that it seems like they're bugs. There is usually two opinions about flying in an airplane. There are people that are terrified of flying, and there are people that love flying and love to know everything about planes. And both of these guys have a lot of questions about aviation. Like the first question, what happens if a bird flies into a plane's engine? Or like another question is that, could a pilot do anything to not go into turbulence? I usually don't say this, but before we answer these questions, please subscribe and turn on the notification bell. First question was, what happens if a bird goes into a plane's engine? This idea seems scary, but a lot of people would like to know what actually happens when a bird goes into an engine. This situation happens more than you think, and it's called a bird strike. When a bird flies directly into a jet engine, it could do some damage and deactivate the engine. And you already know what happens to the bird itself. It turns into powder. But you shouldn't worry when this happens, because most airplanes have more than one engine. And there are planes that have 4 engines, and there are even planes with 8 engines. But let's continue. Let's assume our plane has 2 engines, and one of the engines is deactivated because of a bird strike. If you think this plane is gonna crash, you're making a mistake, because pilots exactly know what to do when a bird strike happens and how to handle a plane with just one engine. So how often do you think this happens? It happens a lot. From 1990 to 2015, meaning around 25 years, around 161,000 bird strikes have happened, and that's only in the USA, not the entire world. But out of this 161,000, only 40 of those planes ran into problems. These innocent birds that you see every year cause $1.2 billion in damages. This cost is not for the repairs at all, but it's the lost money because of a sitting plane, and that means more flight cancellations, and until it's repaired, it's gonna lose a lot of money. So imagine you're sitting in a plane and a bird all of a sudden goes in the jet engine. First of all, you have to know that this happens usually when taking off and landing. And most of the times, it happens during the daylight, because at night, usually birds are not out. And another thing, most of these happen in the summer. If you're flying with a plane, you should not worry about a bird strike at all, because it's not gonna make you crash. Unless there are 2 sets of birds and they plan to go into 2 of your engines and deactivate both of your engines. You think I'm joking? No, this has happened before. On US Airways Flight 1549 in 2009, 2 sets of birds at the same time went into both engines. Leave us a comment and let us know, what do you think happened? And how are these 2 sets of birds so in sync? This for sure has happened, and it's so interesting that they made a movie about it. The movie is called Sully. It's a really good movie, and you could see how this experienced pilot lands this plane without an engine in the Hudson River. And luckily, since it just took off, it didn't have a lot of speed, and this experienced pilot was able to land this thing in the river, and nobody died. Everybody stayed alive on this flight, except those birds that went into the engines. Let's go to the next question. What happens if a plane flies too high? Right now, every plane flies around 35,000 feet, or 10 kilometers, or 10,668 meters to be exact. Most planes can fly way higher than 10 kilometers, but they shouldn't do that. Because the higher you go, the thinner the air gets, and the more problem the jet engine is gonna have breathing. And that is why if it goes higher, it will go higher, but the speed of the jet engine will slow down, and the plane will slow down as well. Let's go to the next questions. Can pilots sleep while they're flying a plane? This depends on the country the pilot is from. Like in the US, however long your flight is, you are not allowed to sleep while you're flying. They have to wait until they land, then they can do whatever they want. But UK's law is different, and a pilot can sleep however he wants. Let's move on to the next question. Can pilots do anything to not go through turbulence? First of all, you have to know that turbulence is really normal and it's not that big of a deal, and you shouldn't be afraid of it. If the pilot is on time and tells all the passengers to put on their seatbelt, there is no danger. But if you don't have your seatbelt on, a really bad turbulence could hit your head on the ceiling of the plane. So that's why, if a pilot tells you to put on your seatbelt, you should put it on right away. There are two kinds of turbulences. The first one is called clear turbulences, meaning turbulences you can't see. But there are some rules. When a pilot flies through clear turbulence, they have to report that there is turbulence here and let other pilots to know that there is turbulence here and try to avoid it. The next set of turbulence are caused by storm clouds. A pilot could see these turbulence from afar, and they can easily avoid these turbulences. Pretty much like how you can avoid bumps on the road. But when it's close to landing, they can't escape the turbulences. And that is why before landing, the plane could shake more. And the reason for that the pilot could not avoid the turbulence. You might be scared of turbulence, but you shouldn't worry at all. If you have your seatbelt on, you shouldn't worry about a thing. And one last question. When a plane is landing or taking off, why is the lights inside of the plane dimmed? If the plane is landing or just taking off and it's during sunrise and sunset, you'll notice that they'll dim the plane lights. Why do they do this? You think they do it for the passenger's comfort? No, it has nothing to do with your comfort, and it's only for a safety precaution. They dim the light so your eyes are used to the darkness. Because if a person's eyes wants to get used to seeing in the dark after being in the light, it takes up to 10 minutes, and they dim the lights so your eyes are ready for the darkness. And the reason for that is when you're taking off or just landing and anything happens to the plane and all of a sudden everything goes dark, you can still see. And when they want to evacuate the plane, you could easily see outside. Are there any questions you guys have about planes? I got all the answers I was looking for and notice what's going on. But if you guys have any other questions, please leave us a comment.